In Genesis 13, Abraham returns from Egypt. And where does he go? Back to the place where he had first built an altar and called on the name of the Lord. Once again, Abraham calls on God. But what was he praying for? The Bible doesn't tell us directly, but it gives us a strong hint. Conflict had broken out. Abraham's herdsmen were quarreling with those of his nephew Lot. At first glance, this might seem like a minor dispute, just a fight over pasture land or water. But the text adds an important detail. At that time, the Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. That's not just background information. It seems intentional. In a land already filled with strangers, the conflict didn't come from outsiders. It came from within Abraham's own family. And often, that's the hardest kind of conflict to face. Some of life's deepest wounds and most painful tests don't come from enemies. They come from the people closest to us. We see this theme again and again in Scripture. Cain and Abel, Ishmael and Isaac, Esau and Jacob, Joseph and his brothers. Generation after generation wrestled with rivalry, comparison, and jealousy. An almost unbreakable cycle. But Abraham shows us a different way. In verse 8, he says to Lot, "Let's not have any quarreling between you and me, or between your herdsmen and mine, for we are close relatives." It may sound simple, but that one sentence reveals a deep conviction. Abraham wasn't just smoothing things over. He was living by a principle that went deeper than personal feelings. Where did it come from? Possibly his character, but more likely, it came from God when Abraham called on him at the altar. That's often how God works. He answers when we sincerely seek him. Right after seeking the Lord, Abraham approaches Lot. He acknowledges the relationship, "We are brothers," and then makes a difficult offer, to separate. He invites Lot to choose whichever part of the land he wants, and promises to go the other way. Now pause for a moment. This was not easy. Abraham had no children yet. God had not promised him a son. Lot may have been the only person Abraham saw as his heir. In Genesis 15:3, Abraham openly shares his concern with the Lord about not having a child to inherit his promises. It's possible that Lot was on his mind then, someone who might have felt like his only heir. In Genesis 14, Abraham even risked his life to rescue Lot from enemy kings. Lot mattered deeply to him. So why let him go? Humanly speaking, there were other solutions. They could have moved together, or camped further apart. But Abraham didn't do that. This feels less like a human decision, and more like a divine instruction. And Abraham obeyed, even though it was costly. A son was the one thing Abraham lacked. God had blessed him in every other area, except for giving him a child. Yet, not only had God withheld this blessing for the time being, he was also asking Abraham to give up someone he deeply cared for, someone he considered as his own heir. This was no easy choice. It was surrender. It was trust. It was obedience that cost something. True obedience means letting go of what feels safest, most familiar, or most precious, simply because we believe God is faithful, even when the path is unclear. So how about us? Are we willing to release what we love most if God asks us to? Jesus later calls us to this same path. "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." Abraham lived this out. He denied himself, letting go of his plan to make Lot his heir. If he had clung to Lot, he would have been acting out of self-interest instead of faith. Now think about your own life. What do you treasure most? What plans or dreams are you gripping tightly? If God asked you to release them, could you? Jesus doesn't ask us to deny ourselves to take away our joy, but to free us from anything that binds us, even good things, if they become idols in our hearts. That's why denying ourselves is inseparable from taking up our cross. To take up the cross means putting to death our sin, our self-centered attachments, our stubborn desires, so we can follow Jesus into a life that's truly new, free, and transformed. If you've never walked through true self-denial, maybe it's time to seek God and ask Him to lead you there. And if you're not sure how to start hearing God's voice and walking in His will like Abraham did, I invite you to join our Key of David 30-day devotional journey here on our channel. It's designed to help you hear God through Scripture, reflect deeply, and experience real transformation, one day at a time.